large number of young people. The relationship between peer pressure and academic stress among junior high school students. Our team has 5 members. And now my name is Chang and I will present the first section, introductions. In this part, I will focus on the context that are based on the slide, and we have numerous evidence represented in this text. So now let's focus on the sub-argument 1. We have two premises. Premise 1 is 61% of adolescents between the ages of 13 and 17 have reported experiencing heightened pressure to achieve outstanding academic goals. Another premise is this percentage is twice as high as those who feel social pressure to conform to certain standards of appearance or social acceptance. So the conclusion is academic pressure significantly increased among adolescents during the pandemic. Now let's move on to the sub-argument 2. We also have two premises. Firstly, physical and sexual changes triggered by puberty, and premise 2 is adolescents simultaneously face academic demands, difficulty in forming or maintaining romantic relationships, uncertainty about future careers, and the challenge of become more independent from their families. So we have conclusion is adolescent is already a period with numerous inherent stressors, even without the additional pressure caused by COVID-19. Now let's focus on the last sub-argument in this part. So I will focus on text from the shift in the educational landscape to the sub-center workload or of homework. So here we have two premises. Premise 1A, the shift in educational landscape from traditional offline learning to online platform created new learning conditions for students. And another is changes in teaching method during this shift made the learning process more challenging. Therefore, students reported higher level of academic stress during the COVID-19 pandemic compared to other circumstances. So, based on three sub-arguments that I that I bring to you, so we have the main argument of this part, and in this part we have three premises. Now, the premise 1 is academic pressure significantly increased among adolescents during the pandemic. Premise 2, adolescents were already dealing with mental natural development to stressor. Premise 3, students reported higher level of academic stress during the COVID-19 pandemic compared to other circumstances. Therefore, COVID-19 intensified both existing developmental stressor and academic demands, resulting in a significant rise in academic stress among adolescents. So, are the premises correctly support the sub-argument? Because they follow a logical valid structures. So since each premise is grounded in observed or reported evidence, and the conclusions logically follow from them. So we can say that it are past two premises and have the logical proper form test. Now we will move to another text in the research. Okay, so let's continue with the main argument. So we have our main argument is adolescent stress has serious long-term consequences. So according to the text, we have two premises that we'll introduce to people to guys. The premise 1A, research show that adolescent stress can influence adult behavior such as alcohol consumption, engagement in violent activities, and criminal behavior. So in these premises, we have evidence based on the research. So it has the two premises. And another premise is they pose a threat to the behavioral well-being of adolescents and jeopardize the peaceful, stable development of society at large. So when our two premises stay together, it can strengthen the proper form. And we have conclusion is adolescent stress leads to significant long-term negative outcomes for individual and society. Now let's move on to the another tech in introductions. In this part, we will focus on the um, the influences by academic stress. Now let's focus on the main argument here. The main argument is adolescent stress arises from multiple social ecological factors. Based on the evidence in this text, we have two premises. The first one is stress during adolescence is shaped by interconnected individual, family, school, and community influences. And the last one is common stressors include strain, parent-child relationship, school violence, and broader societal pressures. Therefore, adolescent stress is a multi-dimensional problem rooted in personal and environmental factors. So I would say that it plus two premises and the proper form as it based on the evidence uh, in the research, and it have the logical proper form and have the link between two premises, and the conclusion is also uh, determine the fact that adolescents arrive from multiple social ecological factors. Now we will move on to the last text in this part. So in this part, I will focus on the peer pressures in one of major factor uh, ac- contribute to the academic stress in a junior high school student. Now let's focus on the first main argument. Mm. So the main argument here is peer pressure significantly contribute to academic stress. In this part, we have five premises. So now let's focus on our third premise. First, premise one. Findings from previous study have stated that the influence of peers is one significant factor contributing to the anxiety stemming from academic pressures. So we have the worst findings from previous study. So I would say that it has two premises. The second one is numerous studies have identified negative correlation between bullying and academic outcomes, including GPA, teacher assessment, and standardized test score. So we also have the evidence based on the research. So it also passed the two premise. The third premise is peer pressure indeed exerts an indirect influence on academic success, primarily through the psychological and environmental strain it places on adolescents. We have the two second left premises. Premise for a adolescent facing heightened external pressure are more likely to experience discomfort in the school environment. So I would say that this phenomenon is observed in real conditions. So it passes through premise. And the last one is school discomfort leads to increased emotional challenges and reduced academic engagement. Therefore, peer pressure indirectly reduces academic performance by causing psychological strain and school-related discomfort. So all the premises here is valid and it are connect together. So I would say that it passed the perform test. Uh, so that's the end of my presentations. Now Hương will present the next part or methods.
Okay, I will talk about methods used in determining the relationship between peer pressure and academic stress. The first part is studying design. We have the first sub-argument with two premises. Premises one is the study was carried out to investigate the connection between peer pressure and academic stress. The second premise is the colorational design is appropriate to measure the relationship between variables. And I have conclusion this choice of disaster coloration design is reasonable. The second sub-argument, I have two premises. The first premise is the results employ a cross-sectional design. The second premise, each participant completed self-assessment questionnaire. And the third premise is the design is suitable for research using self-assessment questionnaire. Therefore, the cross-sectional design is an appropriate method to collect data for the studies. I have main arguments with two premises. The first premise is destroy a descriptive coloration design is reasonable. The second premise is the cross-sectional design is an appropriate method to collect data for the study. Therefore, the research design is what appropriate to investigate the association between peer pressure and academic strength. All of these premises are past the true premises because they supported they are appropriate and all of the premises are factually correct, consistent with the study and supported by accepted methodological principle. And the second part is about participants. I have the first sub-argument with the premise is student was recruited from Sikh Public Junior High School in Sikh district area represent the western, eastern, urban, and suburban part of Padang. And I have the conclusions it represents a status symbol, ensure diversity and inclusiveness of Padang student population. The second sub-argument I have three premises. The first premise is the estimated sample size was determined using the Rostov sample size calculator with the design margins of error set at 5% and the confidence level set at 95%. And the second premise is this calculation resulted in a minimum required sample size of 384 participants. And the third premise is in fact a total of 525 participants were included in the final report. So I have the conclusion is the sample size met and exceeded the requirements, increasing the reliability of the study. And the third sub-argument, I have two premises. The first is inclusion criteria were adolescents aged from 11 to 16 years and willing to participate. The second premise is exclusion criteria encompasses adolescents who had either experienced or been diagnosed with, with a mental health problem. Therefore, the sample accurately reflects the group of junior high school students without mental disorder, consistent with the research objective. And I have main argument in this part is the first premise is representative sample answer diversity and inclusiveness of Padang student population. The second premise is the sample size met and exceeded the requirement, increasing the reliability of study. The third premise is the sample accurately reflect the group of junior high school students without mental disorder, consistent with the research objective. Therefore, I have the conclusions is the sample selected in the study with high representativeness and good reliability, suitable for the analyzing the relationship between peer pressure and academic strength. And all of the premises are part the true premises because is on all of them are asked based on the conclusion of sub-arguments. Now is where the part of the two-line.
Okay, so now I will share the screen. Now let's move into my parts. That's gonna be majors. So first, I will move into the paragraph. And here we have the sub-agreement 1. In this paragraph, we can find the premises. So here are what I found. The first premises is the initial instrument was a demographic sheet designed to assess respondent characteristic. And the second premises, that is including variables such as gender, age, grade level, school of origin, family structure, resident status, maternal educations, paternal education, maternal occupation, and etc. And I can conclude into the conclusions of the sub-agreement here. That is, therefore, the demographic sheets was employed to evaluate the characteristic of respondent. Now, let's move into the second sub-agreement. So in here, I can find out about these sub-agreements first. The first premise is that is the second instrument with the ESSA, or we can say that is the educational stress scale for adolescents. And the second premise is that is the interest have 16 items. And the third premise is that is on the 5-point Likert scale from 1 strongly disagree to 5 strongly disagree. So it's all you can see over here. This is the third premises, and the second premises is about over here. So now let's move into the premises number 4, number 5, and number 6. With the premises number 4, the scale have 5 factors: pressures from study, workload, worry about grades, self-expectation, stress, and study despondency. So the premise number 5 is gonna be higher score indicates severe stress, and the last gonna be the comeback and fail for a total of 16 items on the ESSA scale was 0.81, which is indicate good internal consistency. So we can conduct into the conclusions. That is, the ESSA scale provide the reliable measurements of adolescents' perceived stress. And here is about the main agreement that you guys can, conclude and understand from the first sub-agreement. First, we have the 3 premises. Actually, it's 4. The premises number 1 and number 2 that you guys can see in the conclusions of the sub-agreement 1 and sub-agreement 2. But the premises number 3 and number 4 that I can found down in the passage that I have shown you. And now we will move into the conclusions of the main agreement. That is, the study employing valid and reliable instrument to assess both respondent characteristic and perceive the academic stress. And now let's move into the second part. Is the fourth part. That is ethical consideration. Ethical consideration. And in here we have the first sub-agreement that you can see. First is going to be the measures diminution of the peer pressure. And I have found about these 4 sub-agreement for premises for the first sub-agreement. The premises number 1, the PPPS was developed by Palani and Mani and contains 30 items on a 5-point like a scale. Premises number 2 that I have found that is the instrument comprise 30 items on a 5 points like a scale from 1 that is strongly disagree to 5 that is strongly agree. And the premises number 3 that the scale has 3 factors, yielding to peer pressure, resistance to peer pressure, and encouragement. Last premises in the sub-agreement number 1, that is the peer pressure. Peer pressure is more intense when a student receives a high score and less several when a student receives a low score. Well, in this sub-agreement, we can conduct conclusions. That is, therefore, the PPS effective measures different dimensions and level of perceived peer pressure. And now we move into the second sub-agreement, that is validity. And in this part, we will find out about the validity and reliability. So in here we have these sub-agreement. First, we have 2 agreement, and this is gonna be the second one. First, that is the first premises before initiating the study. The contract validity test was conducted using a Pearson correlations with a sample of 30 evaluations from the Panda City. And the premises number 2, that is all the items exhibited Pearson's correlations, coefficient R values surpassing the critical R table value, thus is affirming the validity of the 30 items. And the last premises for the sub-agreement number 2, that is additionally the crunchback and for coefficients for 30 items, PPS was calculated at 0.94, signifying a high degree of internal consistency. And here we have the conclusions of the sub-agreement number 2. That is, therefore, the PPS is valid and reliable instrument for measuring perceived potential. And now, just like the last part, that
the main agreement will be sum of the first conclusion from the first sub-agreement, and the second premises here, that is taken from the second sub-agreement. So we have the PPS effectively measure different dimensions and levels of perspective, and the second premises is the PPS is a valid and reliable instrument for measuring purposes perceived perpetual. And last is about the conclusions of the main agreement in this part. That is therefore the PPS is an appropriate and trustworthy instrument for assessing perceived peer pressure in the study population. And now we will move into the last part, that is about the statistical analysis. So in here, we have the premises, actually, which is the sub-agreement. This is the sub-agreement, and the premises number one. The premises number one, that is the premises number one is the study was appropriate by the ethics committee that you can see on actually in the other paragraph for the Faculty of Medicine, University Andalas Pada Indonesia. And the second premise is going to be all participants provided informed consent. And therefore, the students are here to ethical standard in conducting research with human participants. And now we will move into actually, this is the first agreement, and here, that is the descriptive statistic and normality. So first, about the premises. Descriptive statistics were formed to describe participant characteristic with percentage, mean score, and standard deviation, or we can say that SD, to define the study variable. And the second premise is going to be the normality assumptions was verified through the Kolmogorov-Chernoff test. And the conclusions here, that is therefore the participant characteristic were properly described and data were normally distributed, meeting the requirement for parametric analysis. Well, now let's move into the regressions assumptions. So we have the premises number one, that is assessment were conducted to check the assumptions required for multiple linear regression analysis, encompassing linearity, independence of error, homocydent staticity, and multicollinearity. And the premises number two, that's going to be the outcomes indicated that the VIF values were below the thresholds of 5, signifying the absence of significant multicollinearity. And the conclusions here, that is therefore the data met all the necessary assumptions for the valid multiple linear regressions analysis. So the last one is going to be the sub-agreement number 3, that is statistic method applying. First, we have the premises. The premises number 1 of the sub-agreement 1, that is ANOVA, was conducted to assess potential variations in academic stress and peer pressure among different classes. Premises number 2 going to be persons per relations analysis was employed to examine the antecedent relationship between perceived peer pressure and academic stress. The premises number 3 we have is the multilinear regressions analysis were utilized to identify the factors influencing academic stress. And the last gonna be this statistic analysis were carried out using the IBM SPSS versions Chinese software program. And this led into the conclusion that therefore the appropriate statistical methods were applied to investigate the variations, relationship, and influence factors. So this is going to be the main agreement of the stuff. The last part, that is the premises number 1, the data was properly described and normally distributed. The second one, the second one in here is have a little bit problems, but we can see it's on the conclusions of the second sub-agreement. And we will move into the conclusions that therefore the statistical analysis conducted were rigorous and suitable for examining participant characteristics, relationship, and factors affecting academic stress and the study populations. So this gonna be the main agreement of all of my friends and me part and my part. The premises number 1, that is the study design was appropriated for examining the relationship between peer pressure and academic stress. The second premise is going to be the selected participants are representative and large enough to ensure the reliability of the study on academic stress and peer pressure in secondary school students. The third premise is going to be the study employed valid and reliable instrument to assess both respondent characteristic and perceived academic stress. The third one will be the PPS is appropriated and trustworthy instrument for assessing perceived peer pressure in the study populations. And the last will be the statistical analysis conducted where work rigorous and suitable for examining participant characteristic, relationship, and factors affecting academic stress in the study populations. Actually, all of these premises you can all see when we presented into the main agreement, the conclusions of the main agreement. So that is the end of the part 2. Now let's move into the part 4 of our friends Lab and Văn will present to you.
Okay, go to the part 4 discussion. We have 2 main arguments. The first one is priority should be given to improving adolescent subjective well-being. And to support this claim, we have 3 parts, 3 sub-arguments. In the first one, the premise 1 is where it can serve as a sort of motivation for adolescents. Excessive peer pressure can also erode their self-esteem and generate discomfort. Where 2 is during their developmental stage, adolescents typically grow more distant from their families and form closer bonds with their peer groups. The premise 3 is peer groups play a pivotal role in shaping adolescents' social competencies and personalities. The premise 4 is at times peer pressure may enhance positive coping mechanisms, but conversely, it can become a stressor and that negatively impact adolescents' developmental skills. And premise 5 is during their developmental stage, adolescents typically grow more distant from their family and form closer bonds with their peer groups. Therefore, we can say that peer pressure has a dual impact on adolescents. And this argument is logically structured because the sub-argument supports the main claim that improving adolescents' subjective well-being should be prioritized. And the premise based on research about adolescent psychological and social development. So, like peer pressure has both positive and negative effects supported by psychology studies. So, adolescents tend to grow distant from families and closer to peers. Academic stress increase with grade level and can then lead to harmful behavior. This argument meets the proper form test and to permit. Next, we go to the sub-argument 2. Which one is additional findings from this study indicate that third-year students experience the highest level of academic stress, concerns about grades, self-imposed expectation stress, and study related to dependency when compared to their first and second year counterparts. Premise 2 is that high tension pressure is often a result of a heightened expectation for performance at advanced stages of education. So we can say that academic stress increase with grade level. The third sub-argument premise 1 is academic stress can have detrimental effects on individuals' overall well-being and further elevates the risks of teenagers partaking in negative behaviors. Premise 2 is according to previous studies, problem behavior encompass acts such as violence, suicide, and criminal activities, all of which can inflict substantial harm upon the physical, mental, and social emotional development of teenagers. Therefore, excessive academic stress can lead to mental health issues and problematic behavior. We go to the main argument 2. School environment and relationship contribute to stress. We have two sub-arguments to support the claim. The first one, premise 1 is studies have shown that bullying and social exclusion and conflict are common stressors experienced by adolescents. Premise 2 is students are frequently subjected to a myriad of tests as they strive to gain admission to higher educational institutions. So therefore, school environment and peer relationship influence academic stress. The second one, premise 1 is parents experiencing burns out are inclined to exhibit a range of negative symptoms when interacting with their children, including emotional detachment, emotional indifference, and a desire to disengage from parental responsibilities. The premise 2 is in the context of education. Children may develop similar signs of academic stress as reflection of what they have learned from their parents. Therefore, parent education and behavior influence academic stress. This in this argument, it's logical structure. The sub-argument showed how school environment and parental behavior influence academic stress, supporting the main claim. About the premise, bullying and social conflicts are common stressors. Pressure from tests and exam is a reality in the most education system. Parental burnout negative affect children It is supported by family psychology studies. So we can see that both main arguments have clear logical structure. So it path to proper form and on two arguments are grounded in factual and research-based premise. So on premise are factual. So now when we will analyze the last part of the research.
I will present the main arguments draw directly from the conclusion section of the research articles. Premises one, peer pressure exerts a direct influence on academic strength in adolescent. Premises two, class level and present educational background serve as mediator in the relationship between academic pressure and adolescent problematic behaviors. Mm, Conclusions. Therefore, the findings underscores the necessity of a holistic approach that combines both external and internal factors at various levels, including the individual's family, school, and social society to bolster adolescent psychological resilience and deter problematic behaviors. Next, through premises test, the states in the main arguments are research-based findings directly from the conclusion section, not subjective assumptions. Thus, they are factually grounded and reliable. Perform test. The argument passes the proposal test because the structure of reasoning in logically valid and follow a recognized cultural uh, policy argue, arguments of patterns. Mm. The next sub-arguments once premises on class level and previous educational background serve as mediator in the relationship between academic pressure and adolescent problematic behaviors. Um, Premises to the peer pressure exerts a direct influence on academic strength in adolescent. Uh, conclusion, um, Conclusion therefore continuous monitoring of academic strength is necessary to premises test. Um, the premises in this argument are the main conclusion of the star cross directly from the conclusion section. They are not assumptions but demonstrate finding thus consider truth. Perform test uh, uh, this um, this sub-argument follow a valid causal-based reason patterns. Together, the premise indicates that academic stress is shaped by multiple interacting factors, families, background, school grades, and peer. Um, mm, the conclusion directly follow from the premise with no firstly, no increase in influence and no logical gap. Therefore, this sub-arguments passes the perform test. The next sub-argument to premises one simultaneously peer pressure exerts a direct influence on academic strength in adolescent premises to class level and parent educational background serve as mediator in the relationship between academic pressure and adolescent problematic behaviors. Conclusion. Therefore, for example, educational institution can implement psychological courses, enhance enhance psychological education for adolescents and um, nurture their character strengths through premises tests. Um, Post premises are key findings from the research course directly from the conclusion, ensuring the factual correctness. Perform test. These arguments a policy recommendation arguments uh, given that strength from multi sources is logically valid to conclude that schools must implement psychological and educational interventions. The conclusion is a rational, evidence-based policy uh, derives from the premises there is no logical factually uh, lead to pass. The next sub-argument creates premises one peer pressure exerts a direct influence on academic strength in adolescence. Premises two class level and parent educational background serve as mediator in the relationship between academic pressure and adolescent problematic behaviors. Conclusion. Therefore, the finding underscore the necessity of a holistic approach that combines uh, combines um, both external and internal factors at various levels, including the individual, families, school, and society, to bolster uh, adolescent psychological resilience and deter promoting promo, problematical behavior through premises tests. The premises are called conclusions of the study present in the final summary, confirming the reliable perform test. This is the most comprehensive sub-argument because it is both main premises to justify the final overarching conclusion. The logic is if peer pressure directly increase stress and if class level and parental education mediates harmful outcomes, then addressing adolescent and stress require intervention across on side on a system. This is a valid multi-level causal um, multi-level solution argument. No fallacy is present and little past. Thank you for listening.